In previous lectures, we have seen rotors which was rigid, supported on flexible bearings. But sometimes both the rotor or the shaft as well as the bearings are flexible. So, today we will analyze such case in which not only the bearings, but also the shaft is rigid. And in this particular case, if we see effectively there is the stiffness of the shaft and the bearing, they are connected in series, and they are providing some kind of effective stiffness and damping to the disc. So, our aim in this particular lecture will be first to obtain some kind of effective stiffness which the disc is experiencing from the shaft as well as the bearing. And once we have that, then we can able to do the unbalanced analysis of such rotor system, in which we can able to calculate the critical speeds. So, in this particular case, because now we can able to see that there is a disc which is not necessary is at the center of this particular flexible shaft. This particular disc, if it is not at the middle, obviously we need 4 degree of freedom to define its position, that is x, y, phi y and phi x. The two are translatory motion and another two are the tilting of the disc. And this particular shaft at ends are supported by the spring, flexible spring. Not necessary these are only spring, we can able to take the 8 coefficient linearized model of the bearing in this particular case, but just for simplicity we have considered a spring here, but and in the analysis we will be considering as a 8 linearized coefficients of the bearing, and correspondingly at the shaft end we need to define what is the displacement, because the fluid film forces of the bearing will be depend upon these two displacements, that is the relative displacement between the shaft end and the housing. And so, the left hand of the shaft we are representing by the displacement we are representing as x b and y b, and the back subscript is representing that this is in the left bearing. Similarly, in the other side we have right bearing. The displacements are different at this end, because we are considering these left and right side bearings as they are having different property. In this particular case, we are considering the foundation, that means the pedestal on which these bearings are mounted as rigid. Subsequently, we will take the flexibility of the rigid the foundation also. So, in this particular case, the analysis will be in several steps. So, first is, let us try to see what is the bearing force due to the displacement of this. So, you can able to see that because of this displacement and the velocity, the bearing force we can able to write as F B x. This is the bearing force in x direction, and this is the bearing force in the y direction. So, bearing force in x direction is k x x into x b, k x y into y b. So, these are the from stiffness of the bearing, and these are c x x x dot b and c y c x y y b dot, these are from the damping. So, the force in the x direction of the bearing due to the motion of the shaft end, one of the end, let us say, will be given by this expression in x direction. Similarly, in the y direction we will be having another coefficients, there is k y x, k y y, corresponding displacement. If we multiply, we will get the forces in that direction, and these are from the damping terms. So, this bearing forces they are representing for one of the bearing end. We can able to write similar expression for other bearing end. In this particular case, as we know, whatever the forces which are coming onto this bearing from the shaft end, they are coming from the basically from the unbalanced force, because unbalanced force is the external force which is acting at the disc. They are giving to the bearing through the shaft. So these forces are obviously they are function of spin speed. So these bearing forces we can able to write as Fbx as capital F, capital Fbx, which will give the magnitude and the phase information of the force, and this is the angular velocity will be taken in the Ej omega t. Similarly, the bearing force in the y direction will be given as Fby, this is a complex quantity, and Ej omega t. So corresponding to these forces in this equation of motion, obviously the bearing displacements will also be harmonic in nature, with the same as the spin speed of the shaft. They will be having different phase, so that will be taken care in this complex amplitude. So this is we are writing the displacement in x direction at the bearing end as capital Xb E j omega t, and this in the other direction of the same bearing. With this, if we take the derivative, we can able to get these two expressions of the velocity term, because in our equation of motion for the bearing force we have velocity terms. So these assumed solution we can able to substitute in this equation of motion, and if we substitute, we will get this kind of expression in which time dependency will go, E j omega t will be common, so that will go. And now you can able to see that this is the bearing force in x direction, this is in y direction. They are in the complex form, and they contain both the magnitude and the phase information. So these two equations we can able to combine in a matrix form like this, in which the bearing now these two equations we are writing not only for one bearing, but identical to this we can able to write for another bearing, that is the bearing B. And so we will be having basically 4 bearing equations. At one bearing we will be having force in x direction, y direction, similarly for other bearing. So this is the assembly of 4 bearing forces at bearing A, that is left side and right side, and correspondingly the Xb, because we have 2 bearings, so x and y direction displacements of the bearing, and this is in the right hand side. In the bearing model, generally we consider only the translatory motion. Whatever the bearing coefficients we have defined, that is only for the translatory motion. For tilting motion, we have not defined any stiffness or damping coefficients. We only, for example, we have written kxx or kxy. We have not written k phi x or phi x phi y, because those coefficients will be negligibly small. So we have neglected those coefficients. So only the translatory motion coefficients we have defined, and in these equations, because of this we can able to see that this particular bearing displacements are linear in nature only. So this particular equation which we have written in a compact form is having, you can able to see 4 into 1 size, 4 into 4 size, 4 into 1. So this particular equation is relating the bearing displacement and the bearing force with the help of bearing property, dynamic property that contains the stiffness as well as the damping terms. Now we will obtain the bearing force from the shaft equilibrium analysis, because the bearing force is basically coming from the disc onto the shaft, and shaft is transmitting the forces to the bearing. So now we will analyze the shaft equilibrium equation to get the bearing forces. So you can able to see this is the free body diagram of the shaft. We have removed the disc from the shaft. So the reaction forces My and moment MYZ from the disc onto the shaft is acting in the positive in these directions, because these are reactions. So they will be acting in the positive y and positive displacement, angular displacement direction. Now because of this, the two end of the shaft A and B we have removed from the bearing also, this particular shaft. So these are the bearing forces in y direction and other bearing in the y direction. Both are, but they are in the one plane. Similarly, we will be having bearing forces in the other plane also, like this in the zx plane. So these are the reaction force Fx and mzx, the moment which is coming from the disc. These are the bearing forces which is acting at the shaft when we remove the bearing. So these are the reaction forces. Now we can able to take the equilibrium of each of these free body diagram, like in the yz plane we can able to take the moment about point B here. So this particular force will give a moment in the, there is this is the moment which we will be getting, and that is balanced by moment from this particular reactions from the disc and this moment. So you can able to see the total length is L, from here to here is distance L. So the moment arm for Fy will be L minus A plus this one, because they are acting in the same direction. So sign will be same. Similarly, we can able to take in the same diagram the moment about point A, then we will get this particular force, bearing force, moment arm is L for that, and these are the from the disc reaction forces. Their sign is opposite because they are producing now opposite direction moment. You can see Fy is acting in the counterclockwise direction, MYZ is acting in the clockwise direction. So its sign is negative. These two equation we can able to rearrange, so that we can write the bearing force at end A in x direction, and this is in the I am just repeating again. So these two are the equilibrium equation in yz plane. So on this, based on similar analysis in the zx plane, we can able to write the equation of bearing forces in the x direction at bearing A, that is left side, and bearing B at right side. So basically we got 4 equilibrium equation from these two free body diagram. These relations which are relating the bearing forces with the reactions onto the shaft from a disc can be put in a matrix form. Or like this. So this is the bearing force, this is the shaft reaction forces, and this is the A matrix. So you can able to see the bearing force is having 4 components corresponding to bearing A in x and y direction and bearing B similar 2 directions. The shaft reaction force are force which contains not only the force in x and y direction, but also the moment in 2 planes, that is zx and yz plane. The stacking of this we can able to choose according to our convenience. So in this particular case I have chosen force in x and y direction first and then the moments. So if we choose this, the A will take this particular form, which are nothing but the coefficients which was there in the previous 4 equations of Fx, Fy and moments. So these are coming from the these you can able to see this coefficients are coming in the matrices. So, this relation which is relating the bearing force with the shaft reaction force from the disc, again this bearing force we can able to write in terms of the amplitude and phase information and the harmonic term. This shaft reaction force which is coming from the disc, obviously that is having the frequency as the spin speed because it is coming from the unbalance, and this is the amplitude and phase of the shaft reaction force. So, they if we substitute in this equation of motion, we will get in the frequency domain bearing force is equal to matrix A and shaft reaction forces from disc. Now, earlier we obtained the bearing force in terms of the bearing displacement. So, that relation was the stiffness of the K into x b. So, if we go back to the previous, here we related the bearing force with the bearing displacement. So, this relation we can able to use here in place of f b, we can able to write k into x b, and with this you can able to see we can able to get the bearing displacement like this by inverting K matrix multiplying by the A, and this is the reactions on to the shaft from the disc. So, now we could able to relate the bearing displacement with the shaft reaction force. Next, now our what we are planning is we are trying to obtain the disc displacement, because disc is placed on the shaft and shaft is flexible. So, we want the absolute displacement of the disc. So, we need to have determination of this particular displacement in two steps. One is when this particular shaft is rigid, and once it is rigid, disc is there at some location. So, whatever the displacements of the bearing is taking place, that will be giving to the two ends of the shaft when we are considering the shaft as rigid. So, because of whatever the displacements are there from the bearing, the disc will be having some displacement, and in second step we will be considering the bearing as rigid, and because of the deformation of the shaft, because shaft is also flexible, so it will deform in some shape. Because of that, what is the displacement of the disc? So, these two displacements we need to add vectorially. So, I am again repeating, first is when we are considering the bearing as flexible, shaft as rigid. So, because of the bearing displacement, what is the displacement of the disc? Then next step, bearing is rigid, shaft is flexible. So, what is the displacement of the disc because of the shaft flexibility? These two displacements will add up to give the total displacement of the disc. So, now we are considering in this particular figure the shaft as rigid, and we are relating we are giving the bearing displacement to the two ends of the shaft. So, this is the end A of the shaft, we are giving the bearing displacement x b, and here we are giving bearing displacement x b which is at other end. Now, because of this disc is here, so what is the displacement of the disc we need to find out. Also, what is the tilting of the disc because of these two displacements, the bearing displacements. So, you can able to see x, we can able to write it as x a, and the difference between the two displacements divided by L, that will be the basically slope of this line, and into A, because A is the distance of the disc from left end. So, this will give us A. So, that is the value of this and the slope of this into this distance. So, that is giving us the total displacement at the disc location due to the bearing displacements. This can be written, we can able to rearrange in terms of the bearing displacement at end A and at end B. So, this is the translatory displacement of the disc due to bearing displacements. Similarly, the rotational displacement will be given as the slope of the line. This one is corresponding to this angle phi y. So, this is the slope of the line. So, the disc will tilt by this amount in this particular plane. On the same line in the other plane, that is yz plane, we can able to give the bearing displacement y b, this of the A end of the bearing shaft and B end of the shaft. So, these two displacements we are giving at the end of the shaft. We are calculating the y, what is the displacement, translatory displacement at the disc location, also the tilting. So, these two we can able to see here. Y we are expressing as y b minus the slope, is the slope, and the location of the disc from the this end, and this can be arranged again in terms of the bearing displacement at end A and at end B, and this is the slope of this particular shaft. So, these four relations which are giving the displacement of the disc due to bearing displacement when we are considering the shaft as rigid can be combined in a matrix form like this. So, shaft displacement, bearing displacement, shaft displacements are x, y, phi x, bearing displacements at bearing A and B, they are linear displacement only, and this B matrix will contain all the coefficients related with the x b, these coefficients. So, in previous equation if you see, they are coming from these coefficients. So, this particular displacement of the disc is due to the rigid shaft. Now, we will consider subsequently flexibility of the shaft also, but before that let us write this particular displacement in the frequency domain by writing in this particular form, in which these displacements will be having harmonic motion, same as the spin speed. This is the complex quantity. Similarly, bearing we have already written earlier like this. So, if we substitute this here, we can get the shaft displacement in complex form in terms of the bearing displacement. And earlier we had x b bearing displacement, we wrote these terms. So, that we can able to substitute. If we go back, we can able to see x b how we defined. X b we wrote like this. So, this we are substituting in place of x b, and I am defining. So, b my inverse of k and A I am defining as C now, and this is the shaft reaction force which is coming from the disc. Now, we will go for the flexibility of the shaft. When we were considering the Jeffcott rotor model with offset disc, we related the displacement of the disc location with the shaft reactions using the influence coefficient matrix. So, this relation, the relationship of the disc location displacement and the reactions at the disc location, we already related earlier. So, we are using those equations directly here. So, you can able to see these are the shaft displacement due to this is corresponding to the when we are considering bearing as rigid and shaft as flexible. So, these are the reactions at the disc location, and these are the influence coefficients which relates these two quantity. Now, like for example, x displacement can be given as alpha 1 1 into this fx plus alpha 1 2 into myz, because linear displacement is not only obtained using the force, but also due to the moment. This x displacement is obtained not only due to the force, also due to the moment. And similarly, the angular displacement not only it is obtained with the force, also due to the moment. Now, we can able to see that this particular expression, which is for simply supported shaft, the influence coefficients are defined in terms of various variable, where if we see a simply supported shaft, so disk is here, so we have A distance, B distance, and total length is L. So in this particular case, A and B are defined like this: L is the total length, E is the Young's modulus, I is the area moment of second moment of area, that is pi by 64 d4 if circular shaft is there. So this is the influence coefficient which we can able to use. For other boundary condition, we can use the different influence coefficients. So now we can able to write this displacement, which is due to this flexibility of the shaft in harmonic terms and complex term. The force we already expressed like this. So if you substitute this in the previous equation, we will get the shaft flexibility displacement at the disk with the reactions at the disk. We can able to relate. This is the previous equation only, this equation. So now we are writing in the frequency domain. Now these two displacements which we obtained for bearing as flexible and shaft as rigid, and this is bearing is rigid and shaft is flexible, can be added. And if you see, earlier we wrote this as C into Fs, and now US2 we have written as alpha into Fs. So they can be written here. Okay. And where now I am writing C plus alpha matrix as capital D matrix in Fs. So this particular equation is now relating the shaft reactions at disk with the disk displacements at the disk location. And if we want these reactions, we can able to invert this matrix to get these reactions. And let us say D inverse I am writing as E, capital E, and these are the displacements at disk location. So till now we have considered the equilibrium of the bearing, equilibrium of the shaft. Now we will consider the equilibrium of the disk to get the relationship between the unbalanced force and the displacements at the disk location. So this is the equilibrium of the disk in YZ plane, ZX plane and YZ plane. These equilibrium we have already seen when we were analyzing the Jeffcott rotor with the offset disk. So this expression, the free body diagram is similar to that one. So here we have reaction force from the shaft as Fx. This is a moment from the shaft. This is the centrifugal force. So you can able to see there is a linear, the translatory motion and the tilting motion. So we can able to write the equation of motion for in these two plane like this, which we already done earlier. So you can able to see this is the force balance in x direction, this force balance in y direction, this moment balance in zx plane, this moment balance in yz plane. So we have four equations. They can be combined in a matrix form like this, where this is the mass matrix defined like this. The U is a displacement vector you can able to see we have stacked the U like this. Now, this is the shaft reaction force, which is defined not only the force and moments, and this is the unbalanced force. Okay. Now, we can able to define again in the forces and displacement in terms of the amplitude, phase and harmonic component like this. So, if we substitute this in this equation of motion, we will get this equation of motion as minus omega square m us, this one, and Fs, which is coming from the shaft reactions, equal to the unbalanced force. And we can able to see that now we can able to write the Fs in terms of the Us from the previous expression. So, we define the Fs, shaft reaction force, in terms of the Us with E matrix. So, that we can able to substitute there. So, I am substituting for Fs E into Us. Now, you can able to see U vector is here also, we can take that as common, and so basically we can able to write this as minus omega m plus E U, we can able to take as common, Us is equal to F unbalance, and to get the Us we need to invert this matrix that we have done here. H is the inverse of this matrix, you can able to see. So, Us is the displacement at this location, is the unbalanced force, and that is the equation we need, because this is an unbalanced force which is known, and what is the displacement of the disc. So, if you see basically H is giving some kind of effective stiffness, effective influence coefficient of the rotor, that means not only from the shaft, but also from the bearing. So, we can able to get the unbalanced response using this relationship. So, we have seen that when we are including the flexibility of the bearing, then we need to basically obtain the effective either an influence coefficient or the stiffness which particular disc is experiencing, not only from the shaft, but also from the bearing. And in some cases not only the bearing, but the pedestals are also flexible. So, that means bearings are mounted on some kind of columns and they are also flexible. If that is the case, then we will be having a third level of flexibility from the pedestals. So, if we want to analyze that, obviously we need to find the effective stiffness or the influence coefficient from not only from the shaft, from bearing as well as the pedestal. So, let us see that particular analysis in which we have 3 level of flexibility. So, here you can able to see that we have disc, shaft is flexible, bearing is there, and then the pedestal or foundation is there. So, basically we need to obtain the effective stiffness, how this particular disc is experiencing at the bottom of due to the shaft, bearing and foundation. So, I am coming to the free body diagram of the, let us say, the bearing. So, this is the bearing mass. Till in the previous analysis we did not consider the bearing mass. Now, this is the bearing, and journal we have removed from the bearing. So, obviously the fluid film forces which is coming onto the bearing mass is Fbx in the x direction, Fby in the y direction. These are the fluid film forces which are coming onto the bearing mass. These are the foundation stiffness and damping in x direction and in y direction. In this particular case, we have not considered the cross coupling terms in this for simplicity. Now, if we see, we can able to relate the earlier we have related the bearing force with the bearing displacement with the help of K matrix, and if we assume if we convert this in the frequency domain, we will be having this expression in which time dependency terms are not there, and the bearing displacement we can able to get by inverting the K matrix and multiplying with the bearing force in the frequency domain. Now, we are writing the equilibrium of the bearing mass in the previous figure. So, this is the fluid film force, these are the elastic force from the foundation in x direction, this is the damping force from the foundation. This should be equal to inertia of the bearing. So, bearing in the previous figure we have seen that the bearing mass is having in x and y direction xf and yf displacements. Okay. In this particular case, the bearing, if we are considering bearing forces are coming from the displacement, that is the relative displacement between the bearing and the shaft. So, there is journal is inside the bearing. So, how much relative displacement between the bearing mass and the shaft is taking place, that is the displacement which will be governing the bearing force. Now, we are considering the bearing mass itself is having some displacement, and that is related with the foundation force by these expressions. So, these are the inertia of the bearing mass. Now, with again we can able to write the displacements of the bearing mass in terms of the amplitude and phase and harmonic components. We can able to convert these equations in the frequency domain, and they can be clubbed like this. So, you can able to see this is the bearing mass displacement D matrix, which will contain these coefficients, and even the mass is defined like this, and this is the component of the bearing mass. These are the components, and similarly the force, which is bearing forces coming from the fluid film onto the bearing mass. So, this particular expression is relating the bearing mass displacement with this particular fluid film bearing forces, which is coming onto the bearing mass. We can able to this previous equation. Again, I am repeating this one. Okay. Now, this particular expression we have written for one end of the pedestal. We can able to write similar expression for the other pedestal, that is B side or the right side, and now I am combining these bearing forces and pedestal displacement of two bearings. Okay. So, this D matrix contain now not only for the bearing end A, also for bearing end B, and similarly these are the displacements in x and y direction at bearing end A and bearing end B. Now, the size of these matrices are basically 4 into 1, 4 into 4. Similarly, this is 4 into 1, and this equation we can able to write xf by inverting this D matrix in other side and multiplying by the bearing force to get this relation. Now, this particular displacement is of the pedestal. Earlier we obtained the bearing displacement so we can able to add that bearing displacement with this pedestal displacement. So we will get the total displacement not only because of the pedestal, also due to the bearing, and earlier we related this as K inverse F B, and here we have related X F as D inverse F B. So that we can able to substitute. So basically you can able to see now this is a effective influence coefficient which we obtained, and this can be used in the previous analysis instead of the bearing only. Now this particular influence coefficient not only contained the information of the flexibility of the bearing as well as the foundation. So now we can able to consider the shaft flexibility, and then this can be added. So from here onward the analysis will be identical as the previous one. This particular expression is representing now both the flexibility of the foundation or the pedestal as well as the bearing. So this equation can be clubbed with the previous equations to get the final unbalanced response of the disc. So in this particular analysis, when we are considering the pedestal or foundation flexibility as well as the bearing flexibility, basically we obtain what is the effective flexibility they are imparting, and then we can able to add that with the shaft flexibility as we did in the previous analysis. Now we will see how much these pedestals are getting forces because of the unbalance. So the pedestal force expression will be given by this elastic force and the inertia force. So whatever the force which is coming from the bearing onto the foundation, some force will be used toward the inertia of the bearing mass. So that will not come here in these expressions. So these forces will be smaller than the fluid film forces which is coming onto the bearing mass. So this can be written in the frequency domain like this. So this is the foundation forces which are coming onto the bearing through one numeric onto the foundation. Some force will be used toward the inertia of the bearing mass. So that will not come here in these expressions. So these forces will be smaller than the fluid film forces which is coming onto the bearing mass. So this can be written in the frequency domain like this. So this is the foundation forces which are coming onto the bearing. Through one numerical example, we'll try to see how the flexibility of the shaft and bearing, if it is there, it can be analyzed to get the unbalanced response of a disc. So in this particular case, this particular example is similar to what we did in the previous lecture. Now we are considering the flexibility of the shaft also. Earlier we considered that as rigid. So data are exactly same as the previous lecture numerical example for bearings as well as for shaft, but now we are considering the flexibility of the shaft also. So our model is like this, in which not only the flexibility of the bearing is there, but also the flexibility of the shaft is also there. Now we want the unbalanced response of this. Basically we are interested in finding the critical speed of the system, and in this particular case the disc is not at the midpoint, is because total length is 1 meter. So is from one end A is 0.6 meter, and we are having some unbalanced response, unbalance into the disc at certain angle as a reference point. So now let us write various matrices. So mass matrix for this particular, which we defined earlier, will be this. various matrices which we define in this analysis, like A matrix or B matrices, which we are relating. Let us go back and see what are these matrices, just for recapitulation. Like A matrix, it was bearing force and shaft reaction force we related. This B we related the when we are considering the shaft as rigid. This is B matrix. Okay. So, these are the A matrix and B matrix for our numerical problem. K matrix is like this, and we can able to substitute the value of this also. C matrix, which we in turn defined as B into K, inverse of K into A, where and this is the influence coefficient matrix. We are considering simply supported. This is for simply supported and condition. For given value of these parameter can be written like this. Now, the D matrix is C plus alpha. So, various numerical values of these matrices we already obtained to get subsequent matrices. D matrix, E matrix is inverse of this, so they can be calculated. This is the stacking of the displacement vector. This is the force, because now it is a disk, so there is no moment will come from the unbalance. And this was the final unbalanced response from the unbalanced force, and this was the total effective support flexibility, which was defined like this. So, you can able to see that if we the eigenvalue problem, if we take the inverse of this, will be this into u. That means, this has to come this side, and this is the response, this particular response. And because free vibration, so we are keeping the force 0. So, the eigenvalue problem of this, if we take the determinant and solve for omega nf, we will get these as critical speed. In this particular case, we are finding one of the critical speed as not feasible. That means, the system is going into the unstable region. So, only 3 feasible critical speeds we are obtaining in this particular. This is due to the bearing property which we have chosen. So, the previous equation we can able to simulate for various value of omega for various spin speed. So, we will get the various unbalanced responses. We have plotted these. So, you can able to see this is the response in x direction and the phase of that. So, there are 2 critical speeds we can able to see in this, because linear motions. Yes. So, here we are getting 2 critical speed, third is also there, but is not seen here, but in y direction where we can able to see the third critical speed also, and there is a phase change wherever there is these critical speeds are there. Here also 3 critical speed, the fourth one was not feasible for values we have chosen. At this location we try to zoom the plot, and we found the displacement and the phase corresponding like this. So, but in this particular case we could able to get only the 3 critical speeds, fourth was not feasible. Present lecture we have seen the flexibility of the disc, the bearing and the foundation also, how it can be analyzed. The method which we used was very basic method. We were doing the free body diagram of each and every component and relating the equations to get the final response of the system in terms of the unbalanced force. In this, the procedure which we followed is having difficulty, that when the system is having more and more components, because in the present case we have considered only the single either long rotor or single disc, but in general in actual practice we will find that there will be large number of masses which will be there. That means large number of discs will be there, or if there are shafts, they will be coupled, two shafts will be coupled with coupling, multiple bearing supports will be there. So, complexity with the present analysis method will be more. It will be very difficult to obtain the equation of motion of a bigger system, in which, let us say, if we want to analyze a turbine and generator model which is having multiple bearings, let us say 4 bearings for whole system, then in between there is a coupling. For such system we will be having more difficulty in solving the unbalanced response using the present method. So, here we feel that there should be some methods which should give us the analysis of either the finding the critical speed or finding the unbalanced response, that should be more systematic, so that there is need not be we derive the equation of motion each time for a particular system. That should be more systematic, so that once we write the governing equation for one particular subsystem, that we should able to use it for larger system. And this requires, based on this, researchers they develop various methods in analyzing such system, and 2 such system will be seeing in future. One is the transfer matrix method, another is the finite element method, which are more systematical, especially they can be programmed, and even a bigger system like 100-degree of freedom system or more than that can be analyzed easily. In the subsequent lecture, we will not go into such complexity, but again we will try to introduce some more complexity in the single mass rotor system, especially the gyroscopic effect. We will analyze for a simple rotor model, and then we will go for the more complex multi-degree of freedom rotor system analysis. So, once we obtain the unbalanced response, even we could able to plot the orbit of this particular shaft. So, once we obtain the unbalanced response for a particular speed, we can able to plot the orbit of the shaft also. In this, but if you remember previous case when we had only the springs, we had the orbit something like this, ellipse with, and the principal axis of ellipse was aligned with the x and y axis. Now, in the present analysis we have considered the coupling of the stiffness, and because of that the orientation of the ellipse will be not aligning with the main x and y axis, but it will be tilted by amount depending upon the flexibility of the cross coupled terms. So, now in this particular case also we will be having similar phenomena, like if we are having a rotor center which is rotating clockwise or counterclockwise, the whirling will be same direction for forward whirl, but as we will cross the critical speeds, this whirling directions will change. Spin speed will remain same, but this will change, that we will be calling as backward whirl. So, wherever there is a crossing of the speeds, the change in the whirl would take place.